What's up and welcome to the DualSense podcast for episode 140. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jason. I am not joined again tonight by Travis. He is off God knows where, doing God knows what. So another solo operation for me this weekend, or this week, I should say. Although I am recording on the weekend. My dogs are going ape shit in the background upstairs over who knows what exactly. But I'm here with you all to bring you all of the week's PlayStation news, rumors, new game releases, and much more, all in less than 90 minutes. We post new episodes every Monday on all of the usual podcast services around the world. We also share new episodes on YouTube, where we also post gameplay videos and clips as well. I've got some Chia on there, among other things here lately that I've been posting, like some PSVR 2 stuff. So check that out if that interests you as well. But we're also on social media. We would love to hear from you. Our primary feed is Twitter. You can find us at the DualSense Pod. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, we post virtual photography from in-game photo modes. We also have a blog. It's called the DualSensePodcast.wordpress.com. There you can get the shows as well, or the show notes, our bios and pictures. And so please find us and hit us up. We would love to hear from you and chat PlayStation as we inch closer to what feels like the precipice of perhaps a PlayStation showcase announcement soon. But anyway, without any further ado, although this is a really quick intro without Travis here, of course, but let's go ahead and jump into a pretty busy week of news for PlayStation, starting with number one. In the video game version of the never-ending story, Microsoft's latest response to the British CMA this week revealed exactly what we have long speculated on this show. Following the conclusion of the glorified 10-year deal that Microsoft will inevitably be forced to provide Sony for Call of Duty on PlayStation, it's possible, if not likely, that Call of Duty will stop being released on Sony's hardware. When asked by regulators if the 10-year deal is sufficient or if there would be a quote-unquote cliff edge at the end of the period, Microsoft told the CMA, quote, Microsoft considers that a period of 10 years is sufficient for Sony as a leading publisher and console platform to develop an alternative to Call of Duty. The 10-year term will extend into the next console generation, redacted, so there's some word there, probably a time frame. Moreover, the practical effect of the remedy will go beyond the 10-year period, since games downloaded in the final year of the remedy can continue to be played for the lifetime of that console and beyond with backwards compatibility. End quote. In other related news, Microsoft said that they would make full use of the PlayStation console's features and it would be optimized for the system as well in terms of Call of Duty. This is, of course, in response to Sony predicting that Microsoft would give them a sandbagged version of the game on PlayStation. And finally, the British CMA updated its provisional findings this week to state that they no longer believe the merger would lessen competition in the gaming industry in the United Kingdom. The CMA said in part, quote, having considered the additional evidence provided, we have now provisionally concluded that the merger will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in console gaming services because the cost to Microsoft of withholding Call of Duty from PlayStation would outweigh any gains from taking such actions. End quote. This, of course, is a massive blow to Sony as their best chance of seeing the deal blocked was in the United Kingdom. The deal should now begin to move through slowly but surely and will likely create a domino effect with other regulators in Europe and the United States. So there's been a lot of talk online this week about this latest development, meaning that the British CMA appears likely to allow the deal through, probably with a couple of concessions, one of those being promising PlayStation a 10-year deal for Call of Duty. I have a couple of thoughts about this. While, first of all, we're ready for this to be over, like we've talked about a lot on the show, I'm certainly ready for this to come to an end so that we can start moving on and focusing on other things in the industry, because it certainly feels like PlayStation has been holding back a little bit in some way in terms of, big announcements of games because they're going to be exclusive, but also perhaps announcements of, developer acquisitions or maybe even a publisher acquisition. But I think I have a couple of issues, generally speaking, with this news. in that while, yes, it does make sense, or I guess not a lot of sense, I should say, for Microsoft to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation at any point, I think we also need to understand Microsoft is a big enough company with enough money that they could take a chance on doing just that very thing if they felt like long term it would benefit them more, in terms of driving people to Xbox who want to play Call of Duty every year. If it's the only place they can play out on consoles anyway, then I wouldn't put it past them. So I guess in other words, what I'm trying to say is I don't trust Microsoft to stand by their word because they've already talked out of both sides of their mouth. They've already gone back on things that they said that they would or would not do. And I just don't think that we can trust them. And to be fair, PlayStation has talked out of both sides of their mouth as well during this whole process, but they haven't, I'm going to say out and out, misled us in a way that I feel like Microsoft has been misleading us a little bit, or at least not telling the full truth. So while, yes, it makes not very much sense at all for Microsoft to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation, I still can't help but be skeptical that actually will be the case. And also, it should be, scary, I guess is the word, that Microsoft essentially has said, well, listen, 10 years is enough. Like, they'll have it for 10 years. And then that should be plenty of time for them to go out and make their own or come up with a competitor. I think the fact that they say that is a little bit of a red flag, in my opinion. And also, a counterpoint to that is Microsoft, of all companies, one of the richest companies in the world. Why can't they just go and do exactly what they're suggesting here, which is create a Call of Duty competitor? If it's just that simple, if they can do it in 10 years and they have, way more money than Sony could ever imagine. So I just don't get that. I think that's hypocritical, and I don't think it's that simple, and I think they know that. And if it was, then why didn't they do it? Instead of spending almost $70 billion buying Activision, would be my biggest point of all this. Number 2, Spider-Man 2 accidentally had its release date revealed, this week by actor Tony Todd, who plays Venom in the highly anticipated sequel. Todd tweeted out, quote, "Looks like September. Massive publicity coming in August. Commercials start dropping in August, so I'm told. Hold on to your ellipsis and hold breath. Gonna be necessary," end quote. Of course, a September release window is no real shock, considering that the first game released in September of 2018 and has gone on to sell over 30 million copies as of May of 2022. Developer Insomniac Games revealed back in December that the game was coming quote-unquote fall 2023, which certainly lines up with September, and it sets the gaming industry up for a massive launch showdown between the critically important, at least for Xbox, Starfield, and the surefire blockbuster Spider-Man 2, perhaps even on the same day, which would be epic and not out of the realm of possibility. I think if I remember correctly from looking things up this week, the first Spider-Man game launched September the 7th, 2018. And so the first Friday of September, I believe that was. And that's certainly a possibility here that these two, meaning Starfield and Spider-Man 2, could go head to head. And I think that would be very cool, honestly, to see those. Because they're both, if we're being honest, they're both going to sell very well. Starfield's going to sell, more than 10 million copies, I would say. Well, I say that, but the interesting thing about that is that it's going to be on Game Pass. So we'll probably never hear numbers about how well or how not well it's doing. That'll be interesting. Never thought about that. But one of them might get delayed. I could totally see Starfield getting delayed until like November, like 2 more months. Definitely could see that happening. Spider-Man, I don't think it'll be delayed. Of course, it hasn't been announced for September yet, so we have to take this a little bit with a grain of salt. But September and the fall window line up pretty well. And the fact that they released the first game in September, I think that is a pretty surefire conclusion there. And Insomniac's also one of the studios that you can pretty much set your watch by at PlayStation Studios. So there's that as well. But gonna be a big fall, big fall. and I think a big holiday eventually as well before it's all said and done. So very excited about this, and I think that we probably won't hear officially anything about Spider-Man 2 until May, when I would say PlayStation will finally hold a showcase. So got to hang on a little bit longer, but it's coming. Number 3, we received our first real details regarding Build a Rocket Boy's upcoming debut title called Everywhere this week, courtesy of Video Games Chronicle. If you don't recall, Barb, as we are calling it, it was founded by former Rockstar lead producer Leslie Benzies. One of the most welcome pieces of news is that it is not a blockchain game, and the studio says they are not interested in Web3 or crypto moving forward, or any other such NFT technologies. So what is Everywhere? Essentially, it is a massive online open world with a large focus on user creation tools. At launch, it will be pre-built with quote-unquote areas, where you can play competitive multiplayer in a third-person shooter, and another area for competitive vehicle racing. The game's central hub is called Utopia, with the rest of the world having large biomes featuring grasslands, canyons, volcanoes, etc. The game's major focus will again be on user-created content, which seems to be a massive trend in the industry moving forward. What is most impressive about Everywhere is that it also houses what is called the quote-unquote entertainment district, which is where Barb, which is Build a Rocket Boy, will develop full-blown AAA games within the game, the first of which is called Mind's Eye, a third-person sci-fi action shooter which they plan to release in chapters. The first chapter will be a single-player story. The second will be a multiplayer-focused chapter. Getting down to brass tacks, Barb says Everywhere will be both a premium and a free-to-play title, with VGC noting that they spotted numerous in-game currencies in the menus during their preview session. Okay, so we had heard about this before, I think sometime last year, maybe even before that, but this is that game from Leslie Benzies, very well-known figure in Rockstar's heyday with Grand Theft Auto. He's a pretty critical figure in the 3D era of GTA, so he's definitely got a great pedigree. I don't know if you guys saw this about this Everywhere game, but you definitely need to go watch this because this looks so cool. They showed a trailer for the Mind's Eye game, which is the game within the game, and it looks incredible. It looks very good. And I think this is a really neat idea. I'm actually very blown away by this, very impressed by this. I think this is something really cool, and hopefully they stick to their word and just leave blockchain and NFTs and whatnot out of it. We certainly don't need that stuff, but this is very impressive. You definitely need to look this up. This idea of having this game that can just kind of mold and bend with the trends, because it seems like the game industry is very fluid nowadays. So it's almost like you have, a game within the game that's a third person competitive shooter, and then you have a game within the game that's a competitive racer. What's to say we can't have a game within the game that's a roguelite one day, or a first person shooter, or whatever the case is. So that is a very fascinating concept to me, where you have a developer creating a game, or really a platform in the shape of a game that they can just mold to their will, and they can update it, change it, add things, take things away as needed, as opposed to having to spend 5, 6, 7 years creating a game and then 5, 6, 7 more years creating another game with whatever the latest trend is. It's very interesting to me. And it also has a great pedigree at the very top of it, and it looks incredible. This immediately shoots up for me personally to one of my most anticipated games. I think from what I remember reading, it's going to come to PC first and foremost, and then I know it's in development for next gen consoles. It'll come at a later date following the PC release, I believe is what they've said. So definitely keep your eye on that one, because this sounds very cool. Number 4, we also have a lot of news nuggets here as well. First nugget, Guerrilla Games opened up pre-orders for Horizon Forbidden West's Burning Shores expansion this week. Surprisingly, the PS5 exclusive DLC only costs $20 and is set to launch on April the 19th. And I was really surprised by this, to be quite honest. I expected this to be a $30 DLC. especially considering that it's PS5 only and the general nature of game costs rising. For context, the Frozen Wilds DLC costs $20 for Horizon Zero Dawn. So I think this is very fair, in my opinion, and I've got it pre-ordered. I'm looking forward to it quite a bit. Also, developer Rapid Eye Movers, it's clever, released a demo this week for PSVR 2 sports game Sea Smash VRS, a sort of sports/brick breaker hybrid, it appears. And they also announced that the full game will launch on June 23rd for PSVR 2. Looks pretty cool. I've got the demo downloaded, but have not had a chance to try it yet, so I'll report back when I do. Developer The Bearded Ladies, which is a great name, announced that tactical turn-based RPG Miasma Chronicles will launch on PS5 on May 23rd. This is the same studio that did Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden, I think was the game. Looks cool. Looks difficult, though. Looks like XCOM in its heyday. Developer Angry Mob Games announced sci-fi action roguelike game Trinity Fusion for PS4 and PS5. It is releasing later this year. A new Sonic Frontiers update has added a new challenge mode, photo mode, and jukebox tracks. Genshin Impact developer Hoyoverse announced their next game is a free-to-play space fantasy turn-based RPG that is launching on PlayStation later this year, and it literally looks like a reskin of Genshin Impact. I can't believe that people care or are interested in that. It literally, I don't know. I'm really unimpressed with it. It just literally looks like they took Genshin Impact, changed a few things, changed the setting, and called it something else. So, I don't know. I guess that's fine. Also, website Video Games Chronicle reported that Respawn Entertainment has opened a third studio to work on Apex Legends to assist keeping the game alive for 10 or 15 years. Hideo Kojima revealed this week that Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes at one point was intended to be the first episode of a larger episodic series for the Metal Gear Solid game, which really makes a lot of sense when you think about the structure of Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. It felt very episodic, right? So you can definitely see that structure there that was melded or formed into something else. Also, filmmaker Zack Snyder says that his upcoming Netflix space movie called Rebel Moon will be getting an accompanying video game RPG. The film is due out on December the 22nd. Don't know what that means, but that's interesting, I think. EA released a new story trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor if you're interested. EA also announced plans to delist several games this week, including Battlefield 1943, Battlefield Bad Company 1, and Battlefield Bad Company 2. All titles will be removed from digital storefronts on April 28th, with online services ending on December the 8th. Beloved actor Lance Reddick, known for numerous roles across television, movies, and games, passed away over the weekend at age 60, meaning last weekend. Reddick is perhaps most known for his roles on HBO's The Wire and in the gaming space as Commander Zavala in Destiny 2, although he is known for many, many more roles than that. He's, of course, Silence in Horizon. He is the concierge in John Wick. He's in Fringe. He's in all kinds of stuff. So, RIP. Former XCOM director Jake Solomon is already working on forming his own studio after departing Firaxis earlier this year. Solomon told the My Perfect Console podcast that his first game would likely not be a turn-based game. The Witcher developer CD Projekt Red told investors on Monday that the company is, quote, formulating a new framework for this project, end quote, in reference to Project Sirius, which is the co-op title set in the Witcher universe. The Last of Us actress Bella Ramsey stated over the weekend in an interview that she thinks the second season of the show will begin filming either late this year or early next year, and that she believes it will air towards the end of 2024 or early 2025, so quite a long wait for the second season of the show. And fans also discovered this week that she can play guitar and sing in real life, so that makes people very excited for Season 2, if you know anything about that, about the second game, I should say. Also, Activision announced that Crash Team Rumble, a 4v4 multiplayer fighter, will launch on June 20th for PS4 and PS5. There will also be a beta on April 20th through 24th for those who pre-order the game. Paramount revealed to Polygon this week that a new mature, darker toned single player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game is in the works based on 2020's The Last Ronin comic. The primary inspiration for the game is said to be the recent God of War games. Resident Evil 4 Remake is adding Mercenaries mode as free DLC on April the 7th. The Lord of the Rings Gollum finally has a release date. It will hit PS4 and PS5 on May 25th. Elden Ring won Game of the Year at the Game Developers Choice Awards, surprising no one. The game also received a ray tracing update on PS5 this week. Epic Games has launched Unreal Editor for Fortnite, which allows users to create their own Fortnite content and make a 40% cut of its sales in the Epic Game Store. So this is pretty impressive too, and it's another one of these sort of like creative platform for games. And that's, like I said, it seems to be a big trend. If Fortnite is doing it, everyone will be doing it. So this is something interesting that's happening to the industry. But it's very impressive what they showed off and what people are already able to do. So very cool. Next nugget. Atari has entered into an agreement to acquire developer Night Dive Studios for $10 million with an additional $10 in bonuses over the next 3 years. Night Dive is a remaster specialist studio who have ported Turok, Doom 64, and System Shock since 2012, among others. Bloober Team says that Silent Hill 2 remake is quote-unquote close to being completed, but the studio CEO said when it will release is up to its publishing partners. CI Games released a new technical showcase trailer for their upcoming dark fantasy action RPG Lords of the Fallen, if you're interested. In oddly timed remarks, given the Activision merger drama, Arcane Austin studio director confirmed to IGN France that a PS5 version of their upcoming vampire shooter Redfall was canceled following Microsoft acquiring Bethesda. While it makes practical business sense, it of course flies in the face of Microsoft's PR and mantra of telling the world that they want to bring more games to more players, not less. So, like I said, talking out of both sides of their mouth. Ubisoft unveiled a new AI tool called Ubisoft Ghostwriter that they say will assist its scriptwriters by generating NPC dialogue. And I hate this. This is, I don't know. I just don't, maybe I'm a boomer. I don't know. I just don't believe that AI creating all of this artistic stuff, all these creative, I guess, injecting itself or taking over all these creative fields is not what we need or want deep down. Website Games Industry reported that a Canadian judge rejected a lawsuit's claims that EA's loot boxes were quote-unquote unlawful gambling. However, he did allow the class action lawsuit to proceed on the basis that the loot boxes may have adopted quote-unquote deceptive acts or practices. Website Push Square reported that Moss developer Polyarc is working on a competitive VR multiplayer game that aims to, quote, broaden the appeal of VR, end quote. A playtest for the game, which appears to be set in the Moss universe, is set next month from April 14th through April the 16th, and signups are now open on their website. For now, it will be only available on MetaQuest 2, but a PSVR 2 version is surely inevitable. And based on the concept art that they showed off, I feel like this is a platform fighter for VR. So like a Multiversus or Super Smash type of thing. Also, new PlayStation Plus Premium Editions Siphon Filter, Dark Mirror, and Ape Academy 2 both include full trophy support, including the almighty Platinum. Survival game Valheim might be coming to PS5 in the relatively near future, as it appears to have only a 6-month console exclusivity window on Xbox, which it recently released into early access. Insomniac Games lead engine programmer Elon Ruskin, is that like Elon Musk's like doppelganger? Elon Ruskin stated on a recent Twitch stream that Spider-Man 2 will have some new dialogue tech, saying, quote, there's some very cool dialogue technology coming out in the next game, end quote. While we have no idea what that means, who even knew that dialogue would be getting a next-gen upgrade? Final Fantasy XVI director Hiroshi Takai revealed that it will take between 70 and 80 hours for players to see and do everything in the game. The Outer Worlds received its first post-launch update on PS5 aimed at fixing the game's performance issues. Post-apocalyptic Australian computer RPG Broken Roads released a new gameplay overview trailer this week. Side-scrolling action platformer The Devil Within, Satgat, was announced for PS4 and PS5. Website PushSquare reported that the Taiwanese Game Rating Board has issued a rating to EA's Super Mega Baseball 4, meaning that a release is imminent. U.S. Senator Maria Cantwell stated during a recent Senate Finance Committee hearing on the 2023 trade policy agenda that, quote, Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end game market, yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers, establishing games that are among the most popular in Japan, end quote. The problem with this is that the 98% figure is beyond misleading, as it omits PC, Nintendo, and mobile games altogether from the data from the country of Japan, opting to compare Microsoft and Sony only. It's also worth pointing out the conspicuous timing of these remarks amidst a review of the Activision deal by the United States Federal Trade Commission, as well as the fact that Cantwell represents the state of Washington, which just so happens to be where Microsoft is headquartered. And it's also quite interesting that Microsoft has contributed more than $500,000 to Cantwell over the last 2 decades as a politician. Quite interesting indeed. First of all, why are our politicians worried about the Japanese gaming market? You know what I mean? Like, all of this sounds fishy, very conspicuous indeed. So, and this is also this is the same people. I don't know if you guys saw the video clip, but there was a senator or a congressman who was interviewing the CEO of TikTok, and he had to have him explain how a Wi-Fi network worked. Essentially, it's a joke. So they need to stay in their lane. Also, IO Interactive shared the spring roadmap for Hitman this week. It will include new elusive targets, new challenges, and new season Easter events, among other additions. Fishing sim Call of the Wild: The Angler was announced to be coming to PS4 and PS5 this summer. Website PlayStation Lifestyle reported that PlayStation's second-party partner Deviation Games' upcoming PS5 exclusive shooter will feature both a story-driven single-player mode and a co-op mode, according to the LinkedIn page of an employee at the studio. It was once thought the game would be multiplayer only. This is a game that I'm very excited about. Very excited about a PS5 exclusive shooter, first and foremost, but one that could be played in co-op definitely sounds awesome as well. So maybe we'll see more about this year. I don't know. Feels like probably won't until next year, though. This seems like a 2025 game, maybe. Maybe it's a 2024 game. We'll see. Also, Marvel's Avengers is leaving PlayStation Plus Extra on March 31st, 6 months ahead of its delisting from the PlayStation Store altogether. Actor Lance Reddick, who I mentioned earlier had passed away just last week, will continue to feature as Commander Zavala in Destiny 2, they've announced, meaning Bungie, as he had already completed future work on the title. The PSVR mode of Resident Evil 4 Remake has just recently started development, according to Capcom. Respawn Entertainment's upcoming Star Wars first-person shooter will be a single-player only game. Website PlayStation Universe reported that the following games received update patches this week: No Man's Sky, Minecraft, WWE 2K23, Dead by Daylight, Conan Exiles, FIFA 23, Mount and Blade 2, Sonic Frontiers, Elden Ring, and Rainbow Six Siege. So if you've been waiting for some fixes or content updates, you might want to check that out. Also, Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 will reportedly have a connection to the Marvel multiverse, according to a Miles Morales action figure. Toymaker Hasbro has since come out to say that this is incorrect and simply a mistake in the product description that was instead referring to the upcoming Across the Spider-Verse film. So take it with a grain of salt. Tarsier Studios, the developer behind the beloved horror franchise Little Nightmares, has teased its new project on Twitter and made it clear that it is a new IP. Remedy Entertainment confirmed that Alan Wake 2 will launch later this year and that it's shaping up well. Website Gematsu reported that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R DLC character Kaicho Nijimura launches March 24th on PS4 and PS5. Relaxing quote-unquote cottagecore adventure game Mel Time will launch for PS4 and PS5 sometime this summer. Side-scrolling platformer Chronicles of Two Heroes Amaterasu's Wrath will launch May 26th for PS4 and PS5. Narrative cooking game Venba will release on PS5 sometime this summer. Real-time strategy game Aliens Dark Descent will launch for PS4 and PS5 on June 20th. It looks very cool as well. I'm curious to find out more about how difficult that game is, though, before I take the plunge. Narrative adventure game Goodbye World will release on PS4 and PS5 this spring. First-person point-and-click adventure game Smile for Me will launch on PS4 and PS5 on April 24th. Retro adventure game Pixel Ripped 1978 will come to PSVR 2 this summer. Single-player and co-op third-person shooter Glitchbusters Stuck on You will launch for PS4 on May 23rd. NCSoft released a new trailer for their upcoming action-adventure game Project M. It's currently in development on Unreal Engine 5 for unannounced consoles and will include Detroit Become Human-style decision-making blended with third-person action, which I did not know what this game was, but I had heard of it. I remember it, but I didn't know what type of game it was necessarily, but this looked fucking dope. Well, this is another one you guys need to look up for sure. This looks awesome. Very excited about this. I don't know if this is a 2023 game or not, but this looks amazing. Crime Boss Rocket City shared a new game modes breakdown trailer this week if you're interested. I think the game is shaping up pretty good. It looks cool to me, but I'm also someone who likes the payday games, so this game is for me. But a lot of people are down on it. For $40, probably even cheaper with a pre-order discount. I feel like you're going to get what you pay for, type of thing. Also, 8-bit side-scrolling action-adventure platformer Bat-Boy will launch for PS4 and PS5 on May 25th. Sonic Origins Plus was announced for PS4 and PS5. It will launch June 23rd, and players who already own Sonic Origins can upgrade for $10. Town building simulation game Go Go Town was announced for PS4 and PS5 and is coming sometime in 2024. Planet survival simulation game Stranded Alien Dawn will launch for PS4 and PS5 on April 25th from developer Haemimont Games, which is the same team behind the wonderful Surviving Mars. I am very intrigued by this game. It's only $35. It looks very cool, and I keep my eye on that one for sure. I loved Surviving Mars. That was one of those games that I played around the time Cities Skylines came out. I just got sucked into it. Oh my God, so good. Single-player third-person thriller Fort Solis, has added a PS5 version and is launching this summer. It features performances by Troy Baker, who plays Joel in The Last of Us, and Roger Clark, who is none other than Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2. Roguelike top-down shooter AK Axolotl launches later this year for PS4 and PS5. First-person Spider Hunter Kill It With Fire VR is coming to PSVR 2 on April the 13th, Definitely not going to play that. Arcade action game Pizza Possum was announced for PS5 and is releasing later this year. It looks like a cute little game. Theme park management game Park Beyond is launching for PS5 on June 16th. Adventure platformer After Us will launch on PS5 on May 23rd. It looks very pretty. Roguelite action game Arc Runner, will launch on PS4 and PS5 on April 27th. The Caligula Effect Overdose will launch for PS5 on May 30th in North America, June 2nd in Europe, and June 9th in Oceania. And finally, Gamatsu reported that 2K announced open-world driving adventure game Lego 2K Drive for PS4 and PS5. It will launch on May 19th, and it looks awesome. Very excited about that. Just out of nowhere, I'm really digging these games just sort of like getting announced and then releasing like 2 or 3 months later. Like, that's perfect. You know what I'm saying? Just do that. It's wonderful. And that's all for the news this week, and I'll move into this week's new game releases now, which is normally Travis's job, but he's on sabbatical or whatever the fuck he's doing. So on March 21st, we got Ape Academy 2, Deceive Inc., Postal 4, No Regrets, or maybe it's No Regrets, but I could have swore I read that as No Regrets last week, and I did not believe that was a typo. I think that was in the press release that way. Anyway, Ridge Racer Type 4, Siphon Filter Dark Mirror, Chia, which is excellent. definitely you need to play that. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners PSVR 2 upgrade. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution for PSVR 2. On March 22nd, we got The Last Labyrinth, Sister, Super Kids Racing Jungle Edition, Wobbly Life. On March 23rd, we got Omen of Sorrow. On March 24th, we got Alpha Warrior, Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key, Extreme Formula Championship, First Time in Rome, Lila's Tale in the Hidden Forest, Living with Horses, My Horse Farm, Overloop, Resident Evil 4, Royal Roads 2, The Magic Box, Still the Fire, and The Crown of Wu. And that is all for this week's new game releases, and some good ones this week. We got Resident Evil 4, which of course is the really big one. It's gotten excellent reviews. People are very pleased with that. Chia came to PlayStation Plus Extra Day 1. It is a very good game. I reviewed it for Gaming Nexus. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Don't sleep on that. It's a wonderful game. Very pretty. One of the probably the most stunning games that I played so far on PS5. Let's see what else here. Those are really the big ones. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Pretty big release for PSVR 2. My understanding is that the Chapter 2 is like a huge upgrade from the Quest 2 version graphically. So worth checking out if you're into that. I have the first one for PSVR 2. I just haven't had a chance to play it yet. So I've got to see what it's about. But I feel like it's one of those games where it has like free movement. And I've discovered that I cannot do the free moving games in PSVR 2. I need the teleporting movement mechanic. That's the only way I can really like keep myself from getting sick. So there's that. All right, let's start to wrap the show up here like we always do by discussing what we've been playing. And no Travis this week to tell you what he's been playing. So I've been playing Battlefield 2042, played some over the weekend, last weekend, and nothing really new to report there. Still as good as ever. Played Chia, or had been playing Chia, I should say. Reviewed it, like I mentioned a moment ago, for Gaming Nexus, and that is such a good game. The only issue I have with it really is I feel like the combat is a little tedious, and I also think it's somewhat unnecessary for the type of game it is. I don't know that they needed to have combat. I understand the urge to have combat or some type of combat mechanic in your game from a gameplay perspective, but it's just one of those games where I think it would stand on its own without combat generally, and especially without especially without combat in the way that they do it. But that still doesn't keep it from not being a wonderful game. And if you're on PlayStation Plus Extra, you really have no excuse. And it's a stunning game. It's a vibe, as they say. Definitely check that out. I've also been playing the supernatural fishing game called Dredge. It comes out on March 30th, which is Thursday. I reviewed it for Gaming Nexus. I gave it an 8 out of 10. And that's a sneaky little addicting game. It's got a pretty addictive gameplay loop from the fishing perspective. It's not a scary game in terms of like, a survival horror. It's more of like a creepy kind of eerie game, like kind of eldritch shit going on. So I think I would check that one out as well, depending on, how much it is, but it's interesting. It's very interesting, and it's something, a little bit different. So if you're looking for, a little bit more unique experience, something that maybe you haven't played before or typically don't play, I would check that out. I'm also playing Chef Life now that I'm done with Chia and Dredge. Those were 2 reviews I was working on ahead of Chef Life. Chef Life comes out Tuesday, the 28th on console, so hopefully I'll have my review done by then, but still playing some of that as well. And then meaning me and Travis. Well, actually, no, Travis didn't play it with me. It was actually my friend Jacob. I downloaded Far Cry 5 because it had that 60 frames per second update for PS5, and it looks very good. I don't know if they gave it maybe a slight bump in resolution as well, but that game looks really good on PS5. Also, it's the funniest video game that I've ever played, and I forgot how fun that it was to play, and I missed it quite a bit and didn't realize it. So I put some gameplay up on our YouTube channel, actually, and it's just hilarious. just the craziest, random, spontaneous shit happens to you. Just stuff blowing up, people getting ran over. It's so outrageous. So if you've never played that, I personally think it's the best Far Cry game. It's also available on PlayStation Plus Extra, so you don't have to pay anything for it if you're subscribed with that tier. So you can check it out, especially at a buttery 60 frames on PS5. So definitely can recommend that you do that. It's even better if you have a friend. You can co-op it with one other person, and it's definitely worth doing that as well. So yeah, check out that gameplay if you're curious about it that we posted. And yeah, so that's all I've been playing, and I'm looking forward to quite a few things in the coming week and weeks, really. I've got to move on to my next game review, and I've got another one coming around the corner. I would really like at some point to get back to Hogwarts Legacy too. I've been thinking about that game a lot. And I forgot to mention this. I actually have been playing the Diablo 4 beta a little bit this weekend. I don't know how I forgot that. That game's really cool. I think I'm going to pick that up whenever it launches, as long as I can get a couple buddies to play with me. But I don't know if you all been playing the beta as well, but I think that's very good. I think there, a couple of glitches here and there, but that's to be expected in a way. I think it looks good. I think it plays good. It definitely has, one of the most addicting gameplay loops. So I'm pretty excited about that as well in June. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here now. That's it for the show. And I know it's a short one. I apologize, but no Travis. It's just how it goes when he's not here. They're short and sweet. So if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe so that you get a new episode delivered to you every Monday on your podcast service. Also, if you can leave us a rating or review, a like, thumbs up, comment, hearts, stars, whatever it is, very much appreciated. Written reviews are appreciated as well, as is sharing us with a friend or a loved one who you think might enjoy a PlayStation podcast where they can get all of the week's news, rumors, new game releases, and more in less than 90 minutes. By all means, please share us with them. We would very much appreciate it. We'd also love to hear from you on social media, Twitter at the DualSense Pod, Instagram, Facebook. Our blog is thedulcensepodcast.wordpress.com. So please find us and chat some PlayStation with us. We really enjoy hearing from you guys. I personally love chatting with you all about PlayStation. It's very fun. So please find us and let's talk, and hope you enjoy the show. Hope you also have a great week. Take care, and I'll talk at you next time. Hopefully we'll both talk at you next time. Bye-bye.